Hi, welcome to Pretty and Blunt. My name's Megan if you're new here, and if you're not, welcome back. Today, I am sharing my lore with you guys. Trauma dumping, if you will. Because I saw this post that said, the jump from 2019 to 2024 has been violent, and I felt that to my core. Because my life has drastically changed throughout these years, and I have transformed into an entirely new person. It's like I've lived a million different lives. I feel like a wise old grasshopper at this point. So I wanted to share some stories and the wisdom I've acquired from being 19 to 24. And today I'm more focused on the struggles and failures I've gone through because I did go through some very karmic cycles with a lot of ups and downs, which has been a drag, but I've come out better for it. So if you're interested in hearing me psychoanalyze my entire life and learning about and relating to this series of unfortunate events that I've worked through, then let's jump right into it. Starting off in 2019 to 2021 time period, I would consider these years to be the lowest points in my life. I was dealing with extreme panic attacks, anxiety, and looking back, I had some degree of depression. I jumped into a weird, awkward, traumatic relationship for those years. If 2 plus 2 was 4, what the fuck is this? I had no social life because I had cut off everyone in my life at that time because of other things I was going through. So I went MIA and kind of hid from the world. Anyone I was friends with at that time was through my boyfriend. I had a really bad relationship with my family, really bad habits with food and weed. I had a hard time getting myself to the gym, working out, taking care of my health. And the cherry on top of it all was COVID, which I think we all spiraled mentally during this time. And that was also the time I realized my faith wasn't as strong as I thought it was. I was in a state of fear, worry, and anxiety, and I think collectively we all were, so the vibrations were low. Ultimately, I had been completely thrown off my path and entered a cycle of stagnancy, which manifests when you are not in alignment with yourself. You are now unable to produce fruit. This happens when you stay in situations that aren't fulfilling for you, when you're putting other people's needs before yourself, when you're constantly replaying the past over and over again, when you continuously repeat bad habits, patterns, and cycles, doing things that work against you. And when life isn't really going how you think it should, you're kind of forced to ask yourself, why? Why is it so hard for me to form healthy habits? Why does no one want to be around me? Why am I not attracting my dreams and goals? Like, what am I doing wrong? And I think this is where a lot of people will lose themselves because rather than going inward and realizing that their own behavior is the problem, they want to turn around and blame the world. And I believe this is what separates the winners from the losers. If you're going to continuously show up as a victim in your own life, then you're gonna stay a victim. And I think sometimes you have to be so fucking for real about how you're playing a role in your own downfall. In the process of that, it's also important to be easy on yourself because we're all human and make human mistakes. It's never that serious. There's no room to dwell on the past. My mantra is to acknowledge what you've done and just show up better next time. This mindset is how you transmute the energy into something more positive and elevated, because dwelling in your sorrows just creates stagnation, and you can't move forward unless you close the door on the things that no longer serve you. The reason I'm able to consistently reinvent myself is because I see a lesson in everything, whether good or bad. I give myself the room to grow and do better. Being able to forgive yourself and give yourself grace is the ultimate form of self-love. And when you love yourself, you're able to love others and treat others better. I essentially got to a point where I looked at my life and realized I was currently settling, unhappy, apathetic, had no goals or aspirations, no identity, no solid foundation. I was just a fat, emotional loser. And I accredit my behavior to worthiness wounds, low self-esteem, no sense of direction, and no frontal lobe, because that is no frontal lobe activity. I also believe the relationship I was in is the main factor on why my life derailed, because I was a little bit too involved in wanting to be Captain Save-A-Ho, Captain Heal-A-Ho, and I found myself in this position where I was completely neglecting my own needs because I was constantly pouring all of my focus and energy into this person who didn't even have the capacity to reciprocate. So I'd be left drained and felt taken advantage of by the end of it, if I'm being honest. However, I think this is a me problem because, like I said, I had no ambitions, goals, friends, much less a hobby. Like, I smoked weed every day. I was a loser. Like, duh, I centered this man around my life because I had nothing else going on. I don't know if I'll ever go into the lore of everything that happened in that relationship because it's just a bit much, and honestly, talking about it on here is something I never thought I'd do, but I don't know. I don't even talk about it in my daily life, so y'all are getting the exclusive tea.
All right, let's get it. Let's hear what you got.
All right. Well, these
Wrap it up.
Anyways, it pretty much got to the point where his mere presence just started to irritate me, and I would talk to him like Nicki Minaj. That's when you know it's over.
Are you that fucking dumb? You ain't hear what the fuck I said?
You asked
Cut his fucking mic. Since he wanna be fucking dumb.
I used to let myself go insane before I'd walk away from someone, and now, if my body's rejecting you, I'm losing sleep, or I'm just losing my peace, you have to go. I've also learned that when you're in alignment, the things that are for you are just going to flow effortlessly in your life. You're not going to be overthinking or overanalyzing situations. You're not going to be sad, get anxiety. Your body is a sixth sense, so it will tell you whether something's good or bad for you. And you have to ask yourself, if you're trying so hard to make something work, is it really working? Question mark. Fun fact, really sad fact, the very last time I had went to his house, I stepped onto his property, did not even enter his house, and I was instantly hit with a wave of sadness, and my chest began to feel really heavy, like I needed to cry, and my eyes started to tear up. So of course I decided to head home instead, and once I drove off, the feelings vanished. If that is not a sign from God that I shouldn't have been around this person, I don't know what is. I also think it signified us being out of vibrational resonance, because I was getting ready to quantum leap and reality shift. Our energies were becoming out of alignment. Moral of the story is, maybe don't continue to date the guy who bought Coke on y'all's first date. Now we're gonna get into the year 2022, because this was a really major year for me. Like I said, I quantum leaped and reality shifted. I broke up with my ex and started fully investing in myself again by working out, starting the podcast, doing little things for myself. and I had every intention of being single because truly the idea of another relationship icked me out so bad. But of course, I instantly met this guy, and that lasted as fast as it came. I do talk more in depth about that situation in my self-sabotage episode, but essentially I self-sabotaged because he really triggered a lot of my insecurity wounds that I didn't even know existed, and I kind of spiraled and had a manic episode, which still gives me crippling thoughts to this day. It was a low moment that I am not proud of. It's seriously embarrassing to talk about. However, that event showed me just how fragile I was. Because I wasn't grounded or secure within myself, I gave someone else the power to dictate my moods, which ultimately led me to my own demise. There's nothing wrong with being sensitive or emotional, but if you are being ran by your emotions and making decisions based off of them, then you can find yourself being easily molded, offended, or even destroying things in the heat of the moment. Having emotional intelligence is being able to manage both your own emotions and understanding the emotions of the people around you, and having the discernment whether the juice is worth the squeeze. Is the cry worth the drama? Is the anger worth the loss? When you don't have control over your own emotions, what do you have control over? Because if you allow people's perceptions, opinions, or decisions to easily affect you, you will always be compromised. And newsflash, not everyone's going to perceive you right, not everyone's going to agree with you, and not everyone is going to like you. It is simply out of your control, and you will exhaust yourself or go insane every time you try to control that narrative. Lesson definitely learned. You will not catch me that bothered by anyone ever again.
You're probably not finding love because you're the problem, and God is protecting other people from you.
While we're on the topic, if you relate to having BPD, bipolar, or you just feel big feelings, although I'm not a doctor, from my own understanding, these outbursts are directly linked to your nervous system. It may be a learned trait or something occurred that has caused you to feel guarded or on edge, and now your knee-jerk reaction is to protect yourself from the unknown, the uncomfortable, or anything that feels threatening. So the idea is to go inward and find the source of what's triggering you so that you can work through that emotion, heal it, and regulate your nervous system. Not only for you, but for those around you. But other than that character flaw, I was also very overwhelmed at the amount of change that was going on every single level. Mentally, physically, emotionally, socially. It was like overnight I was surrounded by a whole new group of friends, love interest, and lifestyle. Everything I once thought I lacked flooded in the moment I decided I was ready for change. In my head, I'm picturing God picking me up by my t-shirt and placing me far away from my old life and into the center of a new one. It was like he breathed life back into me and put me right back onto my path. And I think that is the most poetic, beautiful thing that has ever happened to me. Now, new levels bring new devils. Off the bat of this immense change, I had a friend do some shisty, shady, weird shit behind my back. And it wasn't necessarily what she did that bothered me, even though if I told y'all would be like, off with her head. It was the fact that she decided to lie to me about it, which is truly one of my biggest vices in life, because now I don't trust you, and I can never look at you the same.
You said no. The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Ho, the things that you've lied about.
And of course, I instantly found out because I'm literally psychic. I remember being extremely taken back, like, oh, you were not who I thought you were. And our relationship is not what I thought it was. We had been friends for a while up until that point and got along really well. And I was there for her when she was going through a really tough time. So yeah, it really caught me off guard. Unfortunately, at the time, I just wasn't strong enough to stand up for myself. So instead of confronting it head on, I decided to just brush it under the rug and I slowly distanced myself. Which brings us into the next treachery of my life. I ended up befriending a new friend who basically by the end of it I realized was never my friend, did not like me, did not care about me, and she ended up using me as a pawn in her life, which I was in a very weird, vulnerable place at the time, so I was the perfect victim to use, and she definitely took advantage of that. I will admit, we did have a lot of fun together, up until the point her true colors started to show, but it is what it is. I have a plethora of stories about this person and the way they treated me. However, this one in particular is just my favorite. I think it sums up her character and how she really felt about me. Basically, one day I was in the car with said person and there was no music, we weren't talking, we had just hit the road, and the first thing she says to me is, so-and-so does not like big boobs. So-and-so being her boyfriend. Mind you, I'm in a bikini around these people all summer and I have big, gorgeous titties. So I see where she's coming from, I clock it, and I'm like, oh, cool, good to know. Like, how do you respond to that? I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
And about a month later, we're hanging out, and she goes, I think I'm gonna get a boob job.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I would argue that that was the least problematic thing she ever did to me, but we're keeping it cute today. Anyways, at this point, sad to say it, but I realized I was in this position where I was about to be completely alone again, because clearly I needed to distance myself from this barbarian.
You gotta go. Like, today.
The new friends and love interests that I acquired crashed and burned.
Here's another fucking lesson for you, fucking bitch!
My thought process at this point was that I needed to jump ship from this friendship. I wasn't about to be isolated and defeated again because I didn't just go through all of that for nothing. So, I decided I only had two options. To either stay friends with this barbarian who treats me like shit, or refriend the girl who backstabbed me. I just didn't think there was a third option at the time. Would I ever go back to someone who hurt me again at this point in my life? Absolutely not. But throughout these years, I just wasn't making the best decisions. But it is what it is. We live and learn. It's only red flags from here and really dumb behavior from here. It gets worse. It gets worse. The tea is, I went a whole summer without talking to Backstabber. I just was very distant from her. And eventually we got to a point where we did have a conversation where I had to reach out first and explain to her why I wasn't speaking to her, because she was allegedly clueless about her actions and going around to everybody but me about why I wasn't talking to her. But I digress. I associated her going around to everyone asking about me to her caring about me, and I just assumed she had felt like too embarrassed to talk to me about it. The word around town was that she was very sad about our friendship or whatever, and I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, if you feel a little bit of remorse, I'm open to rekindling the friendship and just working through things. Also, at the time, I knew a thing or two about self-sabotaging, so I didn't think I was in a position to judge or put anyone down. And honestly, at this point, I didn't deem the drama worthy of another ounce, droplet of my energy, because it was so draining and old news at this point. My main focus was how the heck am I going to get myself out of this position, because I had just experienced such a high where I was very, very, very happy and on cloud 9, and then plummeted back down to earth and hit rock bottom again. So I was truly just focused on looking forward to being happy again.
Not around here, partner. Not around here. Not around here.
Would you be shocked if I told you a drama came out after all of this? As I'm making this transition, I'm starting to talk to Backstabber more, and we're like hanging out, and honestly things kind of just went back to normal, even though the vibes were definitely off, like looking back at it. But it was pretty easy to kind of just jump back into it. So one day I'd called her and was unloading everything Barbarian had done to me, because it got really, really weird, and she would understand because they know each other, actually. Fun fact, really, really sad fact. And so Backstabber, and after our phone call, called a third party person, and then that person went and told Barbarian, and then I get a call from Barbarian asking why I was talking shit about her, and then Barbarian and Backstabber went at it because they had their own issues, and it was a whole freaking thing. And that was really where I left Barbarian. Didn't really talk to her after that. She low-key was reaching out to me, but I was just kind of like, nar, thank you. I never thought I would relate to the movie Mean Girls before, but rewatching it, it is exactly to a T how insecure females act. At the time, I felt like Katie Heron in the zombie costume at the Halloween party. Very off-putting, awkward. I was kind of fat, crooked teeth. Like, I had my own insecurities, but the bitches were still mad. I don't know why. Make it make sense, babes. But anyways, truly by the end of 2022, I was flabbergasted. I was forced out of my comfort zone. My old habits and beliefs were being challenged. I was heartbroken. Once again, the girls hated me. Nothing went the way I thought it was going to. I got botched lip filler. I started drinking heavily, and I accidentally started bulking because I was lifting weights and food at the same time. I was a mess. Will I make it out alive? Will I have the redemption arc I deserve? Or will I fall under the wrath of my haters because they can't stand to see me happy? Stay tuned for next week to see if I'm able to turn this shit show around. But in all seriousness, if you don't find yourself here next week, I do just want to disclaim that by me sharing these stories, my goal isn't to tear anyone down or throw dirt onto anyone. Like, truly, anyone can get on a podcast and talk their shit. But that really isn't the intention of these stories. It's more about me and my journey and how I've been able to transmute all of this negative, icky shit into something better. And we'll get more into that next week. But yeah, it's all peace and love over here. I wish no harm, ill will, or negative energy towards anyone. If I have learned anything, it's that we're all constantly projecting our insecurities and subconscious beliefs onto each other, and unless you're solid within yourself, you will soak it up. I've also very much been on the other side of that coin, where I've been projecting my bullshit onto people, and I've been the villain in many people's stories, so I'm not really here to cast stones with a glass house. But with that being said, I wanted to end today's episode with a Bible verse, because I find that there is a verse for every situation we are going through in life, and whose words are wiser than God's? this is going to be a little long, so bear with me. It's John chapter 15. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does, he prunes so that it bears more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word I spoke to you. Remain in me as I remain in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire, and they will be burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want, and it will be done for you. By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. As the Father loves me, so I also love you. Remain in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I've kept my Father's commandments and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. This is my commandment. Love one another as I love you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends, if you do what I command you.